I want to share with you a method for learning jazz language in a way that is much deeper than just taking a lick and putting it over a chord change. And this method will help you get better at everything in music. And when I mean everything like time, tone, intonation, phrasing, melody, your understanding of harmony, your ear training. It hits so many different levels of your musicality. It's going to make you better in every aspect of your playing. And it's going to take your understanding of music to an entirely new level. And if you're new to the channel, click like and subscribe and hit the little bell for notifications. I'm trying to release videos about once a week and I hope you'll check them out. So I can honestly say I've been very fortunate and lucky to have some of the best musicians as friends in New York City. And when I listen to them play jazz language, I'm always blown away. And when it was time for me to start learning how to get my language to the next level, I asked a lot of them what was their technique for doing this. And some of them said like they would write down the solo. Some of them said they'd memorize the solo and play it without the sheet music. Some people would just take a few licks here and there. And I noticed the people that played language the best really combined a bunch of different ideas together, and so that they were learning language from many different viewpoints. So this method that I'm going to share with you, it's going to take a while. This isn't going to be like the one thing you practice every day when you practice. This is going to take months to go through to get just one solo together. It's going to be part of your practice routine. It's not going to be your practice routine. When I did this the first time, I did it on Sonny Rollins' solo on I'm an Old Cowhand, and I couldn't believe how much it opened my eyes to Sonny's playing, what he was doing, understanding all the techniques that he was putting in there, the phrasing, his understanding of harmony. It just blew my mind. And in the end, it helped me kind of create some of the stuff and some of the content that I share here. And it also took my playing to a whole other spot. Like I noticed I was on gigs and I could just put some of these ideas into my solos. It was really amazing. Step one of this method. You want to pick a solo that you really love, that you can sing by ear, and that's not too complicated. You don't want to do like Coltrane live at Newport or something like that. You want to pick a solo that is pretty accessible, like Miles' solo on Someday My Prince Will Come. I chose Sonny Rollins on I'm an Old Cowhand. Once you've picked your solo, what you want to do is be able to play that solo from memory without making any mistakes in time with the recording. So you need to memorize it without reading it. You have the whole solo memorized, no sheet music in front of you. This is going to take a while, and that's totally okay. Like I said, it's part of your practice routine. It's not the main thing you do. So you might work on it like a half hour every day until you have the solo memorized. And it might take you a month. It might take you a month and a half or 2 months. It might take you a week. It just all depends on the solo, how much time you have to get behind it. But again, it's just a process. It's not going to be the main thing you do. But here in step one, what you want to do is memorize the solo and be able to play it without sheet music and without writing it down or reading it. All right, so now you have the solo memorized. Step two is to write it down. And this actually takes a while also, because you need to be specific with the rhythms. You need to write it all down correctly. And I've had this take me a week and a half, where I'm writing down the solo, and I can't spend like 4 hours a day doing this. I just might spend like half hour, 20 minutes writing it down. And this process makes everything really clear in your mind. You can see exactly what Sonny was doing or Miles was doing on their solo, and you can see it against the harmony. You can see what they were thinking. Because I find when I play it from memory, it's like its own bubble. It's just kind of this like amorphous thing that doesn't really make any sense. I understand it lyrically because I can hear it, and I understand it note-wise because I can play it on my horn, but I don't understand it logically. And the writing it down process is where you logically figure out what is happening in this solo. You're going to want to put the harmony to the song in when you write it down, and you're going to want to analyze the lines that the person is playing to see exactly what they're doing, exactly what these techniques are, exactly what's inspiring them to play this way. By the way, guys, I can't get into everything in one video as much as I'd like to, so I have a totally free 6-part masterclass. You just sign up, and in it I talk about my favorite tips for taking your playing to a pro level. Check it out in the description below. So once I've got that solo written down and I've analyzed it, I could see the technique. So for instance, on Sonny's solo, he was using enclosures everywhere, and it was amazing. And I couldn't hear that necessarily when I just listened to it for the first time. But once I memorized the solo and then I looked at it written down on paper, it was bright as day what he was doing. It was super obvious, and I was blown away. And it made it so easy to take that idea and place it into my solos. Step 3. This is a heavy step. You're going to take the solo that you know from memory and you're going to play it in all 12 keys. That takes forever. It's super challenging and it's super hard. And this is why it's deeper than every other method. You're going to learn this solo in all 12 keys on your instrument. So you got it in the original key. I recommend going to a key that's kind of far away from the original key. So for instance, Sonny's solo on the tenor is in F, so I learned it in C sharp next. Now this might sound crazy or daunting, but your ear is going to get confused if you do it in a key like B flat, or if you do it in a key like G, or something that's really solidly close to the key of F. You want the key to be far enough away that your ear feels like it's an entirely different place. This is where the whole ear training aspect comes into learning a solo and learning jazz language like this. You have to be able to hear these lines in different keys, and you'll use your knowledge and your logic and your theory to help your ear get there. So for instance, like if you get stuck on a line in the new key, go back to the original key, figure it out logically, and then take that information to the new key. So for instance, if the line you're stuck on is an arpeggio and they're just going like down the arpeggio from the major 7 or something like that, you know that is what you need to do in the new key. And now you're developing your theory as well as your ear. And then the next part is technique. Some of these solos, once you move them to different keys, might be in extreme registers on the horn. It fit perfectly great in the key of F, but now you're moving it up to C sharp and you have to play the whole solo up an entire octave. This is really gonna expand your technique in the high register. Or maybe you're doing it in E flat and now it's lower and now you're hitting the bottom aspect of the horn a lot more. So it really is gonna take your technique to a whole new level. So now in this step, we've hit technique, we've hit ear training, we've hit theory, so much information. And again, this is not going to be done in a week. This is going to take 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I remember when I first learned Donna Lee, the melody in 12 keys, that took me an hour a day for about a year. So this stuff is going to take a while. But each time you do something like this, it'll get faster and faster. So now we're at step 4. This is where we get to the idea of like taking a lick and putting it on a tune. So as you're doing the solo in 12 keys, take the lines that pop out to you that you really love and write them down in a separate spot. Now that you've got them in this spot, analyze them, figure them out. Later in your practice routine, when you're working on a song, try to plug these lines in those spaces. Or maybe it's an idea like the enclosures with Sonny and his solo. I would try to enclose certain chord tones or start phrases with the enclosure or end phrases with the enclosure. Now I'm getting this idea into my playing instead of just taking one little aspect of it. Because I've done it in 12 keys memorized, this solo is in my ear, it's in my mind. And when I'm taking this line and placing it into the song, it's getting a whole new level of depth. And then the last step, step number 5, is you compose your own solo on a tune in the style of this solo that you've been working on. I took the tune confirmation and I wrote 2 choruses in the style of Sonny Rollins on I'm an Old Cowhand. I used enclosures to connect chord tones and make resolutions and things like that. I learned how to use descending diminished scales from that solo, and I tried to write some of those into the solo in confirmation. What this does is it takes the original performer's ideas and kind of morphs them with your own, because you're going to create your own lines, you're going to write your own phrases and things like that. And that's what really takes it to the final, last deep level of really absorbing this solo, is you write 2 choruses in the style on any tune and then you play it on your instrument. You don't have to memorize it, just be able to play it. And there you have it. That's the whole method. It's really a lot. It takes me months to do this method. And again, it's not my main thing I practice. It's part of my practice routine. It's something I might work on for a half hour every time I practice. And it'll take me months to get through. It'll take me 5 months to do this entire process. Don't be hard on yourself, or if you get done it quicker, whatever time it takes to get you through this process, don't worry about it. The goal is to do it and find deeper meaning in the solos, in the music, in your abilities, and I'm positive that it will do so. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Click like and subscribe, hit the bell, and if you have any ideas about how to learn solos that really help, let me know. I'm all ears, and I'll see you on the next one.